just arrived from Germany. Incidentally, these are really, really expensive, but not nearly as expensive as you buy them from Mercedes. Unfortunately, the SL shop doesn't do any reproductions or anything. Okay, and that's what all the fuss is about. They do look nice. What they should do for that price, these are the dust covers that go on the back of the disc brakes. In case you haven't noticed, they are not symmetrical, so you need to make sure you order the right part. This is for a car with no ABS. The later SLs with ABS, these will not fit. A part like this, you often are going to want to paint it, and you're going to need to know whether that is just some kind of cheap primer that you have to remove completely, or whether it's actually a rust proofer. And the way to do it is what's called a lacquer test. So this is some paint stripper here, thinners, and we're just going to rub a tiny bit on, and if it comes off, we'll know that that's cheap primer that we have to come off, that has to be taken off. If it doesn't come off, we'll know that we can just lightly sand that down and then spray it with whatever top coat we want on there. £73. I'm really hoping that doesn't come off, which it doesn't. If you look at this here though, this is a refurbished control arm. You do the same on there. Oh my goodness, that's just covered in a cheap primer. So in order to paint that, you're going to have to strip the whole lot off and basically put a proper etch primer on there, or in this particular case we're sending those off to be powder coated anyway, sandblasted and powder coated. But do bear in mind that when you buy parts, just to check what's actually on there and whether you can just paint over it or whether you need to strip it off. These rusty dust covers here, these are beyond saving, unfortunately. It's a hugely expensive part. We saw some from MB Classics in Germany, and we have to now get this off. And in order to do so, the first thing you have to do is take this dust cover off, and you may be lucky and be able to just pry it off with a screwdriver, but we're going to just tap it off lightly, going all the way around. Try not to kink the thing, just gently tapping it off till it comes off. This dust cover will come off like so, revealing beneath it a little lock nut that you'll need to take off before you can get this off. This lock nut is held on by a 6mm Allen key. Taking the Allen bolt out, this here should just screw off. Okay. Make sure you don't lose that bit. Okay, and then once you've done that, screwed that off, you should just be able to lift the whole hub off, revealing these 3 bolts, which look like they'll be interesting to get off, and that should release the dust plate. Let's give it a go. These bolts are pretty rusty. That one came out okay, but the washer immediately disintegrated. That one sheared straight away and the washer disintegrated. And this one, well, it's not budging. Let's give it another go. Intact. So we've got 1 bolt to drill out. Probably have to end up getting some more of those bolts, either from Mercedes or somewhere else. We just need to take this off carefully. Take this off, that it's got 4 holes in it. There are only 3 holes in the actual hub here. So we're going to have to drill that out and tidy all of this up. This is the hub here. We're going to just get rid of all of this loose rust, drill out that snapped off bolt, and probably just spray that with some rust encapsulator to protect the whole thing from dust, etc. We're just going to pop a toilet roll over there, which happens to fit absolutely perfectly. We're going to have a go at drilling out this sheared bolt. The secret is to get hold of a little spring-loaded punch. You basically put that in the center of the bolt, press it down, and it'll just give you a tiny little indentation for the drill bit, and then to use sharp new drill bit. Thanks. Finally got that out with a 5mm drill bit, and now we're just going to rethread it with a M6 tab. Cleaned up the threads on all of these holes here, just using this cheap and cheerful Silverline tap and die set from Toolstation. If you were doing slightly more sensitive stuff, I would definitely advise against using cheap things like this, because if you snap one of those in a hole there, they are very, very, very difficult to get out again. As I say, this is not particularly sensitive, and we managed to drill most of the screw out, so I'm not worried about that snapping. When you do this, obviously use some cutting fluid or oil of some description to lubricate. So we've just sprayed this up with one light coat of rust encapsulator. We'll give that another coat later on, and then we'll put on some Eastwood Extreme Chassis Black. We've just finished painting these with Eastwood Extreme Chassis Black as the top coat, and underneath we had the rust encapsulator. We've blocked off all the screw holes just with some spare upper control bolts. We're not intending on re-greasing these spindles, so we've just used an old piece of toilet roll just to cover that up to make sure we don't get any paint in there, and those should be ready to go back on the car tomorrow. We've finished painting up the hubs with Eastwood Extreme Chassis Black. We've drilled out the holes, ordered all the parts we need. It's time to put this back together now. It's a good idea when you are putting it or taking it to pieces just to remember the orientation of the various parts. When we were taking this to pieces, we managed to shear off a couple of the bolts. This is what the bolts look like that came out. They have a small washer on them. Two of them snapped off in there. So you can either get along to Mercedes and buy new bolts. This is the part number here, N914125006501. And when they come, they'll come as Allen head bolts, and they won't come with any washers. You've got a tiny dab of thread lock on there, so you'll have to get your own washers, but actually I don't like mixing the bolts, so what we've done is we've just gone along to eBay and bought 10 of them. They are M6 times 10mm stainless steel hex bolts, £1.89 delivered. These bolts incidentally cost £2.10 each from Mercedes, so it's definitely cheaper getting some of these. We've got some washers left over from when we were doing, I think, the bumper. There's nothing special about those washers as long as they fit. And we're just going to put the whole thing together. I'm going to go ahead and put a drop of Loctite normal on these threads here. Don't normally use Loctite, but in this particular application where there's a lot of vibration, the chance of ever needing to get these off again in my lifetime is almost zero. I'm going to put a drop on before you put the Loctite on. Okay, we've got those 3 bolts tightened up. I haven't gone overboard tightening them up. They're just tight but not over tight. Now we just need to take that, drop it back over here. When you've tightened this up, you should be able to turn that first washer there. It'd be very stiff to turn if this is the right tension, but you'll just about be able to turn it. There should be no upward movement in this. It should run freely but not be loose at all. You just want to tighten this up here with an adjustable wrench, and when it's tight, you just want to back it off a third so that this basically turns freely without any catching. Don't forget to put the radio interference clip on, and when you've done all of that, it's just time to put the dust cover back on, and that just taps on. Tap that on, make sure you do it with a rubber mallet or a piece of wood. You could spray paint that with the Eastwood Extreme Chassis Black. We haven't done it because it'll never show on our car, and that is now ready to go back on the car. We've put everything back together, painted everything, it's come out looking nice. These are horribly expensive, these parts, but you couldn't really go to the trouble of powder coating the whole subframe and replacing everything and leaving these like this. So I think in the end we paid about £163 for a set of those. Horribly expensive, considerably cheaper than Mercedes. Those are ready to go back on the car, just waiting for the subframe to come back from the powder coaters. And we're going to do a short video on the upper control arms, point out some of the issues you might have with those. We bought 2 of these dust covers from MB Classics in Germany, and including shipping and exchange rate, etc., it cost us £163. We bought 10 of the bolts you need to attach the brake dust covers from this guy in eBay and delivered. Paid £1.89. It took a few days to get here, but for that price, you can't complain.